This is iFanboy Pick of the Week 733, brought to you by NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/iFanboy and use code iFanboy to take control of your internet experience today. And iFanboy listeners, just like you, who are washing their hands, wearing masks, and basically just stay inside.
And enunciating the hell out of that.
Hello, welcome to iFanboy Pick of the Week, episode 733. I am Connor Kilpatrick, and this is Josh Flanagan.
I am. Hi, Connor Kilpatrick.
My beard is getting to the point now where the ends of it are curling into my mouth,
You gotta,
which is annoying.
yeah,
and
you gotta keep up with that.
As I'm talking, I'm also eating my own face.
Oh God, even when mine doesn't get that long, that happens. That's my main facial hair maintenance, is to stop it from touching me. I don't like, because I have it's curly, and so like it always curls around and it touches me. I don't want to feel my hair touch my forehead. I don't want to feel my beard touch the side of my mouth. It's a constant. It's like fighting the tide.
It's a constant battle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, we are iFanboy, and we read our comics as they come out. Still, we're somewhat normal this week as Marvel put books out, but still not very many books coming out. And next week is going to be the same thing. We're going to ride this wave as it comes, but we read our books. We pick the best one, call it the pick of the week, talk about other books, and you get spoilers in your discussion. So here's your warning that there'll be spoilers. This week, Josh had to pick. Yeah, and you only had like 5 books, right?
5, 6, something like that. I tried to get one that I couldn't, and yeah. So it was not an easy pick until I
did not envy you this week.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like sometimes it's a thing that sticks out, and then sometimes you got to do the math. And I think this week I had to do the math, and so I went, well, we'll go through most of these books, but like I enjoyed Amazing Spider-Man, but was it great, or did it just make me feel like kind of good at the end? Yeah, it's kind of the latter. I enjoyed Avengers, but there were some things, and then I was looking at Books of Magic number 19, which is the pick, and there's a new writer that came on, David Barnett, and the artist Tom Fowler, and it just took a slightly different direction than it had been going, and it was different. It was unique, and it was kind of fun to see what was going on. So basically, Tim Hunter is a wizard. He's a magician. He's a teenager, so he's got sort of equal bouts of awkwardness and overconfidence that he goes through, and that's kind of his character. It's a little different than it's very easy to compare him to Harry Potter, which is, I think, been done a lot. But Harry Potter is definitely a different type of character, and this one's a little more. Well, it's a little more Vertigo. We'll put it that way. And so the opening of this story is this like just decrepit, sort of like aging hipster character, and he's in a wheelchair, and a very happy lady has come in to take care of him, to help him, for home assistance, and he's surrounded by records in a dark room, and then all these creepy dudes come to the door, and they basically he trades them some legendary purple acid for a muse, like a real live muse, like a woman. Who is, like a supernatural being.
Right.
And you're like, well, this is odd. And then
Sharon Stone.
Yes. Yes.
In the film The Muse.
That's true. Albert Brooks, right? Yeah, that's not creepy in retrospect at all. And then at the same time, Tim is out and he meets a girl, Manic Pixie Dream Girl, and she's doing magic, and he's not very well and not a lot of it, but he's like, you can't do that. There's consequences. You can't just do whatever, but she still kind of intrigues him, and so he starts following around. And then he's really happy, actually, to meet somebody who's not scared of him and who at least knows what magic is, and it's something that doesn't have to keep a secret. And they, get to talking, and they're hanging out, and he decides he wants to impress her with some magic. So he's gonna transport them to Glastonbury, the legendary music festival. And when he pops out the other side, it turns out it looks a lot like Glastonbury, but everything's all weird and supernatural. It looks like they're in the dreaming, and they're trying to figure out. And it's this world called Festival. And that's sort of this ongoing, perpetual music festival. If Glastonbury had magical creatures and never ended. And then the other dude is also trying to get back there, apparently. And that's the setup for the story. And what I liked about it was that I'm not reading anything like this. That's an interesting take on things. It's you've taken this magic character, you've put him into this context of a music festival that doesn't show up in comics all that often. And also the sort of last. Well, I was actually surprised that we're 19 issues into this. The first 18 issues, there was always this. It was building to this huge crisis. We if there's the magic is going to do whatever, and it's always this huge crisis that goes on for 2 years. And, I was like, oh, this is just going to be a story. It's going to be in and out and however many issues it takes. Could be 2 issues, could be 5, whatever. It's just a story. If you're a teenager with magic and you meet a girl who does magic and then you go to a rock show. And I thought, all right, I can get with that. And at the same time, I've said this many times, Tom Fowler is one of the best artists in comics, and he got to draw a bunch of sort of monsters in this. That's what he does. If you look at his sort of like Instagram feed he draws monsters for fun. That's what he does. So they're all over this. Yeah. There's angry trolls are represented here as the folks at the show who aren't really good with other people. It was just a weird, fun little issue that was not like any of the other things I was reading. And you know what? I really liked the voice that Barnett brought to it. It was a different feel than it had been before, and a little more in line with, like, how do I put it this way? This is a world that you could see John Constantine coming in and out of, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Which
he does, doesn't he?
Exactly. It just fit that ethos a little more. It was like getting like.
But he's in this? This is part of that shared world. It's the Sandman universe.
Yeah, and they mention him like he's an entity in this, but it felt more like that kind of thing. And I liked it before, and I was enjoying it, but I think I liked this better.
Well, this is the second time you picked this book.
Have I picked it before?
Yeah, Books of Magic number 14.
Well, there we go.
In December.
I've enjoyed it. Yeah. It's interesting because this is one of those series that I actually have always wanted to read. But sort of going back and diving into the stuff that came out in the 90s was always just daunting. It was one of those, like, I'd like to do that someday. But in my mind, I thought, I never will. So when this series came out, this is just like they got rid of Vertigo, and then they basically relaunched 2 really good early Vertigo books. Like, there's a good Hellblazer book again. There's a good Books of Magic book. There are other, there's a Dreaming series that I didn't really get into, but I don't know, maybe Dreaming people love it. Like, it's so strange. They got rid of the branding, but then they made the same product. And if they just made that product with the branding, they might not have had that problem.
It's weird.
It's really weird. It's very, I was going to say it's very HBO Max. And then I thought, oh yeah, AT&T.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Yep.
All the same. Oh, I'm glad you liked it. I mean, Tom Fowler is terrific.
Yeah.
And I like that you like this book because it seems like it shouldn't be a book that you would like.
Yeah.
But I guess it does. It is.
We talk a lot about
this. Horror. It's not horror. No, it's more like.
Definitely not.
It's more like.
It's fantasy.
Constantine horror fantasy kind of thing.
Yeah. And we've talked a lot about not loving stuff that, is like, it looks like a normal concept, and they're like, but there's wizards, it's they work in a hot dog stand, but there's zombies, and it isn't that. It just kind of is what it is. It's like, these are magicians who are teens or whatever. They're sort of people living in the real world, and it's not YA because it's earlier than that. Like, it's that. I mean, it's like that. It's like British. There's a sensibility to it that I've always liked. And it was. I probably wouldn't go after something like this now had the concepts not been grandfathered in, if that makes sense. Yeah, but they're fun, and also like, comics are very same. The superhero stories are what they are. Every other sort of indie comic is the this meets that mashup. Jaws in space. Everything is trying to find that hook for TV, and these are just telling stories, and I there's something about that I think works really well for me.
Well, there you go.
There
Books
we are.
Of Magic, 19.
Books of Magic.
I have no idea what I would have done, so I was glad it wasn't my week. I guess a case could have been made for the Avengers 33 from Jason Aaron and Javier Garron.
That was what I thought it was going to be.
But
it wasn't
I also
like
had problems with it too. So
yes.
There was nothing I read this week where I was like, Yes, I mean maybe Basketful of Heads, but it would have been the same discussion we'd already had.
Yes.
But I really don't know what I would have done. So thank you for not being my week. So this was the start of a new arc, the Moon Knight versus the Avengers, and then this issue is all about Moon Knight methodically taking down several members of the Avengers and stealing their abilities. And I thought that was a fun concept. I had a problem with the art. First of all, it didn't help that Matteo Scalera did the cover, so it's going to make anything inside disappointing. But I thought that the beginning part with Iron Fist was really good, and then for some reason I thought the art got worse as it went, and I thought the Thor section was pretty terrible.
I disagree. Only in the sense that, like, at the beginning, I thought, "Who is this?" And it wasn't Ed McGuinness. And I know that this is sort of sacrilege, but I don't love the Ed McGuinness stuff on this. And this aesthetically was a lot more in line with what I do like. And I think that the first segment was good, and I think maybe at that point I was just hooked. And I noticed, like, when that Thor page shows up, he wasn't. I didn't love it. You're right. But I was kind of in at that point and wasn't really paying attention. I just sort of had gone along with it. But there were pages. That last page, where Moon Knight is kneeling in front of Khonshu, like, there's some really good stuff there. And I think.
No, there's definitely good stuff. It was just weird. Like, I hated the way he drew Thor. There's one page, 17, where he's grimacing. It just doesn't look. I don't know who that is, but that's not Thor.
Okay, yeah, I see.
It just that part was bad. I like the rest of it though. I mean, the art wise. I really love the Iron Fist, the opening segment with Iron Fist, in which we don't know what's happening. Iron Fist has been summoned to Kunlun, and by Moon Knight, and he's like, "Hey, buddy, we both live in New York. Why do we need to meet in Kunlun?" And then they proceed to have a Bendisi kung fu fight. I still love the device that he brought in which that you show the ridiculous movement names, and they use it actually for dramatic effect. Jason does here, where Iron Fist is going to punch him with the Iron Fist of Shao Lao, and then but the Fist of Khonshu is stronger. So and the words are on top of each other. Yeah. That was a nice little lettering.
It's pretty much
device.
At first, it's just like every time Moon Knight would throw a punch, it's Fist of Khonshu. And then they added in a couple more, and I was like, no, don't do that. Like, make them all Fist of Khonshu. Like that. I thought that was a really fun device. And you're right. I also really like the fact that Danny's outfit is ridiculous, but I kind of love it. Like, it's like a skin tight tracksuit and the sneakers, and it's a little silly. I'm like, you know what? It works. I'm going with it. But I really love that Danny was like, it was a long time before he caught into what was happening.
Right.
It's funny.
Buddy.
He definitely there's a little crossover between how they write Danny Rand and how they write Clint Barton these days. They're a little interchangeable, but I like this more for Danny Rand than I do for Clint Barton. And I think it was the Iron Fist Power Man series by David F. Walker. He was he's a little breezy, and
he's just happy to be here.
Yeah, he's going to do a good job. He's competent, but he's not gonna let it all get him down. So overall, I thought, oh, this is a different story. There's not like, oh yeah, don't forget Dracula. It's just we're doing an Avengers story, a lot like Books of Magic. Like let's just do this story, and I was happy about it. I did have a little bit of a 180 feeling on Mark Spector, and I know that he's got the personality disorder, whatever. We just came off whatever that last the Max Bemis story that we really liked. And then now there's this going on, and I know there's a twist. He's not a bad guy, but he's got to do this thing. And this is classic superhero meets superhero, so they fight, and then in the end they'll come together or whatever. But I don't know. I felt a little like, no, don't do that to them, which I guess is intentional.
I mean, you don't like the hero versus hero, and I get that, but like he's gathering the power to fight the devil. So he gets the Iron Fist, he gets the magic from Doctor Strange, he steals Ghost Rider's card, but then doesn't seem to have it later on. He gets Thor's hammer.
It's
he
not
doesn't
even
steal anything from Black Panther because Black Panther's power is himself, and there's nothing to steal.
The thing
I thought it was a nice little touch.
It was. The thing that I think I didn't like was just that, like, we had gotten to know Mark Spector in this other context recently, and I liked that context, and all of a sudden, like, that was gone. It was as a different person, which I guess If you're gonna do it with anybody, you're gonna do it with the character with multiple personality disorder. I can't argue that. But I was like, oh man, where'd that other guy go? I had fun with that.
They also can't seem to figure out how to color his mask because sometimes it was black, and then other times it was like at one point when at the end on page 20, he's got the hood down and the mask is still black because before you think it was just a shadow, and then on the final page, when you turn the page, it's white again. It's like it kept changing colors.
See, I saw it in the context of those are different aspects of himself. And no, because like those are the different versions of Moon Knight, and that's why. So when he's in the suit, he's all white. Then when he's got the hood, he's a sort of classic black one. Like he was changing his appearance based on the personality that was preeminent. That's the way that I took it.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah. I just liked that it was a change of pace.
It was a
from
nice,
what's been happening.
solid Avengers story. I honestly don't remember where we left off.
Me neither.
This. I don't remember. It's been so long and a lot has happened.
But I liked that.
But I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it, but it was like, was it a pick of the week? Yeah.
No, I mean, gun to my head this week, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, that's where I was leaning. But I mean, obviously, like the review is that was pretty good. Yeah, that was good. That was a good time. But that's not like, man, this was a great issue. It was a good start. It was fun. It was enjoyable. Which is the most you can ask of a comic book. Yeah,
that's true. We had the final issue of The Butcher of Paris number 5 from Stephanie Phillips and Dean Kotz. So this is the true life story of a serial killer in Paris during the Nazi occupation in World War II. And it's tough because we've been enjoying this series. One of the issues was Pick of the Week. But I felt like this issue covered too much ground too quickly.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
I mean, admittedly, you and I are probably a significant portion of the readership, percentage-wise.
Like 8.
But it needed to be probably 6 or 8 issues, maybe. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a lot of story here that just got sort of wiped away by this issue, where basically he gets captured and then tried and executed all within 20 pages, and there's a lot of things that we just skip right over.
And the main detective, the old guy, like he's got a whole like subplot that I felt like
they didn't do it at all because he got arrested for being a Nazi collaborator because one of the Nazi officers wanted to screw him, so he said he was a collaborator, and that happens all off page.
Yeah. I was like, what is this? Like,
that was the big cliffhanger. He got arrested in the last issue, and then this issue, it's like a year later, and he's like, oh, that was all taken care of. It's like, what?
This is speculation, but this feels like, I know we were going to give you 6, but we need to wrap it up in 5, which is business reality, but or relatively new writer. They didn't sort of stick the landing. I'd still recommend the series. I'm still glad I read it.
For sure.
But
interesting story. But like, I felt like this issue really, it was doing really well up until this point. And then I think this issue sort of, you just didn't stick the landing. And that's only because there was way more stuff in here than pages. Mm-hmm. That it just needed more room, more storytelling.
And there could be all sorts of reasons for that I'm not, I don't know about, but yeah, because of that, like it felt lacking, and like I saw there was a new issue of that, and this is the one I was most excited about this week. I was like, oh, awesome. Right. And I didn't hate it. I did not like it, but I was just a little like, oh, okay. All right, that's
disappointing. I mean, because what was in here was pretty good. I mean, I don't know how true to life all this is in terms of him being the super charming guy in the courtroom that is funny and gets everybody on his side. And I assume
that was a stretch.
Well, it could have been true. That's why I don't know. And then obviously the dramatic flourish with the fictional detective who shows up, and that part was a little. It all seemed very real. This is a little too melodramatic for where the book has been, I think.
Or if it was if it felt a little like if there was historic precedent for that stuff, then it wasn't presented in such a way that I knew that. Meaning, I mean, largely, I guess it's just that it felt like a dramatic thing, but also I thought, well, maybe that happened. Like I've read stories where the horrible person is in court and the people are like, oh, he is so handsome though.
Oh yeah, it's happened, especially with serial killers who one of the things is they can be charming, and make people laugh. And he's not so bad. He's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a Perry Mason moment. I don't know. It was a disappointment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I still looked pretty good. I mean, I liked how towards the end, page 29, before the final page, where they're having sort of a confrontation. The art gets gets less polished as the tensions rise. I like the way this book looked a lot.
It captured the energy of the thing as you go through the end of it. However, you could also say it, like as they're rushing to finish it, it also kind of looked like that, except it worked, graphically. Yeah. I don't know though.
I doubt that because it's the only page like that.
There's two. There's was it? You said 29.
Before the final page.
And 30. Yeah. Yep. And then 27 is also like that.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know.
Maybe.
And then so the like big dramatic thing in the courtroom. We don't really see that part of it end. Next page is basically like, all right, credits.
Roll the credits, which I didn't necessarily mind, but
no, but it's still like there. It needed. Maybe this just needed 5 to 10 more pages.
Maybe
that might have been it. Maybe like an exercise.
Issue. That's a half an issue almost. Maybe it needed to be at least 6 issues. I think, but this issue should have been stretched out over 2.
Yeah, or I mean, like I said, like if it maybe was just a little longer, then the corners that were cut wouldn't have felt that way. Exercise final issue, something like that. But somewhere between those is the answer, I think.
And I understand. Again, Josh and I probably 10% of the audience, so yeah. I get you. I'm surprised this book was even made, and I'm happy it was.
And listen, we loved 85 to 90% of this.
Yeah,
loved it.
Like you, I was excited to read it.
Yeah. And now a word from our sponsor.
Let's take a quick break to talk about NordVPN. Take control of your internet experience today with NordVPN. If you use the internet, and we know you do, you're listening to this show. I don't know how else you do it.
I have a guy, and I pay him to put this on vinyl for me.
Oh.
I don't know where he gets it.
Well, then you can sit down for a second. This is not for you.
Okay.
Josh is a Luddite. You need to get yourself a top-of-the-line VPN to not only protect your privacy online, but unlock some pretty cool content. By using NordVPN, you'll get military-grade encryption and keep any prying eyes on your internet usage in the dark. So that's nice. We're all concerned with privacy right now. We're all concerned with everyone knowing everything that happens to us on the internet. This is a good way to keep things private. Not only are you protected, but if you turn on NordVPN, you can connect to one of their servers in over 60 countries, and it seems like you're in that country. Why is that good? I'll tell you what, Josh. Last year, I was in Europe on vacation.
Well, la-di-da.
During the end of Game of Thrones. Not for the finale, but for like the second to last episode. And I was never going to avoid spoilers if something major happened. And so a VPN was very helpful in allowing me to watch the final episode as everyone else did. And so you can do that too with a VPN service.
You are all about the shared cultural moment.
Yeah, I also didn't want to get spoiled for the show I've been watching for 8 years.
That's a good point.
So maybe you want to watch the BBC iPlayer for some British content, or maybe you want to use Netflix as if you were in Japan to get some amazing anime content. NordVPN is the way to do that. Some other great aspects of NordVPN that make using it easy include NordVPN's Chrome browser extension is lightweight and user-friendly from the first click. It secures your browsing in seconds. Android and iOS apps to secure your mobile browsing experience. Unlimited bandwidth for up to 6 simultaneous connections. Risk-free, 30-day money-back guarantee, and 24/7 customer support, live chats, emails. So, what's the offer? Right now, you can get 70% off a 3-year plan plus 1 additional month for free when you go to nordvpn.com/iFanboy or use code iFanboy. This special offer makes your subscription just $3.49 per month.
That's very reasonable. That's a very reasonable number.
For encryption, protection, and also international access to content, that's a great number. I mean, that's less than one comic book.
I was waiting for them to be like, $20 a month. We'll get it down to 15. And I went, oh, that's doable. That's a doable number. And I can see benefits to that. The security alone.
Less than the price of any one of these comic books we're talking about. It gets you all those services. So that's nordvpn.com/iFanboy to take control of the internet.
You know what's always nice to come back to in comics is Ryan Ottley. It's always every time I get a Spider-Man, I'm pretty happy about Amazing Spider-Man. Then I see it's an Ottley issue and I go, oh, all right. Like it feels like a treat. It feels like one of your lesser holidays. Like it's not Christmas.
It's definitely a treat. But this arc has been a treat by him.
Yeah.
the Amazing Spider-Man 43, Nick Spencer, Ryan Ottley. I will say this: the only negative I had is clearly Ottley shouldn't ink himself.
He didn't
because
fully.
he inked himself on the last 3 pages.
Oh, is that
and so it's Cliff Rathburn, his regular inker, throughout most of the issue, and then the last 3 pages are Ottley. It's just a different look. It's very angular and rougher. It's not bad. Actually, I take it back. It's not that he should ink himself. It's a very different looking kind of Ottley. And it was a little bit of a whiplash from the clean and polished Rathburn inks to his rougher inks.
Well, I'm going to turn this around on you in that I think one of the things that maybe, without fully understanding it, that I like about Ottley is that he's kind of an old style artist. Like he does, as far as I can remember, pretty fully rendered pencils, you know, and then the inker, which is who's Cliff Rathburn, I think he inked most, if not all, of Invincible.
Yeah.
He adds something to it. You know, he adds something to it the way that Terry Austin added to John Byrne, and without him, John Byrne is not as good. Or, you know, presumably Mark Farmer and Alan Davis, or the list goes on and on. Paul Mounts and Brian
Morales,
Hitch.
Paul Mounts,
Who inked anybody who Transmetropolitan, anybody who inks Derek Robertson is infinitely more appealing to me when somebody else is inking him in a certain way that just brings out everything that's great about him. And I think maybe Ryan Ottley is one of those guys. And they're
not just tracers.
Yeah, no, and I don't even mean to, like, I don't think that's a weakness on the part of Ottley. It's just how he works best. You know, like a guy in a band who has a really great bass player, that is a better band as opposed to him just playing on it. You know, actually, you know what? This is very specific, but Dinosaur Jr. is one of my favorite bands. Lou Barlow is a bass player who doesn't sound anything like anybody else. And Jay Mascis has done albums where either he's playing the bass or somebody else is, and it's not as good. The embellishment of the other thing makes the main part stronger. And I think that is probably a Ryan Ottley thing, and I love that. I want inkers back. Economically, whatever. I think inkers make things better.
If this is how he's always had been drawing, like I wouldn't necessarily dislike it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I kind of like the rougher style on its own in its own universe, but when you compare it to what the Rathburn pages look like, it's like night and day. Mm-hmm. So that's all. And there's only a couple of pages. I don't know, who knows why it happened, but
so
you know, this arc about the little creature was nice. I mean, this issue wasn't as good as the last one.
No, and I think that
broke our heart. But,
yeah, I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
The art really was the first bit with the sort of giant monster fighting in the streets was like, that was excellent, really excellent.
His facial expressions on is it Gog?
Gog.
Is it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. GOG.
Like Magog in DC.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Just he draws him like a dog, like the joy. He's got joy in his face. I'm looking at page 12 when they realize he's playing fetch with boomerangs, and he's just so happy to be playing. Mm-hmm. And I just like it's amazing cartooning from Ryan Ottley and Cliff Rathburn.
True. And the thing being though that was it a great story of an issue? No, not really. No. It ended. I was like, wait, that was the whole thing. So it was really more looking at the art and then sort of feeling that emotion. That was the strength of it, you know. And now he's gonna have a weird little pet, and I was like, oh, this is like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. You know, like there's a Porg now.
It is actually kind of a weird. I mean, it's not. You know, so Peter lives with Boomerang and Robbie Robertson's kid, so it's sort of this. It's not quite as fun if Robbie, instead of Robbie, was another superhero or villain, then it would be this weird kind of take on that, which would have been fun. But they're also watching The Walking Dead on TV.
Gog is no Ms. Lion. Ms. Lion
saved the day all the time.
Ms. Lion, I don't think has Ms. Lion ever been canon in actual Marvel comics, though, is the question.
I don't want to put a stake in the ground and say no, because I feel like maybe.
I mean, so it must have happened. It's been almost 40 years. It must have happened at some point. Let's move along to Basketful of Heads number 7. This was a week of endings, it turns out.
Of series we've been really enjoying.
Yeah, and it's like 7 and 5 are weird numbers to end a series on. Like I'm like, oh.
I could have made the case for this as pick of the week because I thought the ending was strong. but only in the era in which we don't write 1,000 words on the pick of the week, because I would have nothing left to say about it.
And that was literally, I thought the ending was pretty good. I felt like I was missing something, but I'm not sure.
It ended
what
on
it
a
is.
classic twist. So
Yes, yeah, that was good too.
Junie was the cliffhanger was Junie was tied up and tied to an anchor and tossed in the water. She's the classic blonde 80s female heroine, and the corrupt cops in town caught her, threw her in the water with an anchor. She frees herself, and with the help of the magic Norse axe she's been carrying around and beheading people with, and gets back and ends up saving the day. But we find out this whole time she's been assuming that her boyfriend, what's his name? Whatever his name,
Liam. He's a good guy. He's the good one in this, isn't he?
He is the new summer hire deputy, because they get those summer dollars. And we've been assuming Liam is the guy who's been leaking information about their criminal activities of the police department to the FBI. He's a good guy. And it turns out here he actually, while not as bad as the other cops, wasn't quite the guy she thought he was, and in fact wasn't the source of the leak, and did take some of the money that the other cops took to buy to buy an engagement ring for her. He may not have been a drug dealer, he may not have murdered people, but he certainly wasn't the hero she thought he was. And it turns out it was the maid who lived in the house that was the source of the information.
I think the other thing that's kind of cool is that by the end of this, Junie had, like, she might have forgiven this earlier on, but by the end she had enough of these assholes.
She had a really bad night. This was all takes place over the course of basically one day. It's just not a good day to find out your boyfriend took some money as a cop.
Yeah, you know what I really liked about this? Is the Super Dune Buggy Beetle. That is my favorite car in comics right now. For me, this was enjoyable. Again, it's a book that's sort of outside of our wheelhouse of something that we would read, but good is good. But
the thing is, it wasn't really because it's basically an 80s movie. I mean, the horror element was really just that the
gore. I don't know, like I'm sure
it wasn't really, it's almost a comedy, because the way that the head, she would cut people's heads off with this axe, but because it was this magical Viking axe, they stayed alive, and that was mostly played for laughs. It was like this weird kind of like a horror comedy.
I'm guessing that horror people can subdivide all this stuff into very specific genres. Is my guess. This is like a Sam Raimi. It's something like that kind of thing. But you can hear you can hear the squelching sound effect. Like, it's horror. It's R-rated. When she's cutting the stuff off. For me, though, that one of the big stories here is who the single named Leo Max, whoever that is. That pseudonym or whatever it is that's going on. But I don't know where this person came from, but I'm very excited to see more from this artist.
That's true. I just want to back up and say, I guess Liam was involved in the death of that girl. Mm. He didn't kill her, but he was involved with the other cops. So he turned out to be, I would say, 80% as bad as the other guys.
Okay. I honestly don't remember that story.
Well, I was trying to figure out why she was justified in cutting his head off, and I'm looking back over the dialogue, and he was there, and he had some bad words to say about her.
He let her jump, basically, or he pushed her. No, he didn't.
So
push her. I don't know.
He got his comeuppance too. So at the end of the day, Junie drives off with the maid
and the badass beetle.
And whatever, it was fun.
Jump
it was
some
goofy.
dunes in that bad boy.
It was a lot of Jaws references. It was really fun.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So those are all the books we wanted to talk about. I struggled to add more books to the rundown. Other comics came out. Not a lot to say about them. So let's jump right to the Patron Pick. Patreon.com/iFanboy. Anyone who's a patron can vote to add a book to the rundown. Second week in a row, it's a wire-to-wire winner with Star Wars Dr. Aphra #1.
So it's a forced Star Wars corner.
Forced Star Wars corner, you're right. Written by Alyssa Wong, art by Marcia Cresta, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, and letters by Joe Caramagna. This book was released digitally back on May 4th for Star Wars Day, but was officially released this week to comic stores and the such. So this was the official release week.
Now, I have a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
I mean, you've been a record. You're not into the Star Wars comics or whatever. What do you know about Dr. Aphra?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I know from you talking about her on the show that she's like an archaeologist. That's all I know.
She's like a rogue archaeologist,
morally gray archaeologist.
Yes, she's what you picture Han Solo was like before he met Luke, basically. That kind of thing. Right. Much more murky. Really interesting character. You really struggle with whether you like her or not, whether you want good things to happen or not, but there's something charming about the character. I think, she's working with Vader for a little while. She's got Vader against her for a little while. Created by Kieran Gillen in the Darth Vader series. Clearly a breakout success from that. They went on and did the series. Then that series was taken over by Cy Spurrier. That is when I dropped off, when he started doing that. Right. And so what we have here is another relaunch. This has to be the second, maybe the third Dr. Aphra series, having number one, at least second. This is Alyssa Wong, a writer I haven't heard of. I sort of looked her up, and she's done some comics, and she's written a lot of short stories. Pretty young. The art by Marcia Cresta, I've never heard of her. It was fine. So what's your take?
I like the cover. Cover by Valentina. Where is it? I'm looking to the credits page. I know Valentina was the name. Valentina Reminar. Real good. That's as good. That's about all I've good positive I can say about this.
Did you make it through?
I struggled to finish it. I put it down like 4 times.
It was not good.
No, it was not good.
It was not good. And the problem with this. I feel like apologizing.
I thought the art was not good either, but
it wasn't that it was.
It may have been the color. It may have been the colors more than the art. Well, Rachel Rosenberg's good colors. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that the problem with this book that it was astonishingly average, bland. It wasn't bad. It's just that I just explained a lot about Dr. Aphra, who is a character full of nuance. And
none of that was in the book.
None of that was present. It was just like, hey, we're a crew. We've got these people around. Oh, this is my old acquaintance. What's going to happen here? Here's my other old acquaintance. Everything was very. I was like, oh, this is like every episodic genre TV episode before that was a popular thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like the syndicated genre TV shows that would appear like on Fox during the afternoons on Saturday.
It just represented the things I don't like about Star Wars extended stuff for the most part. It's just a lot of Star Wars gobbledygook said by characters I don't know or care about. So I just don't know or care about anything. I had no reason to. It read like you had to know Dr. Aphra because nothing in here told me to care about her. or know anything about her. And so then I was left with a bunch of long Star Wars names and words and places and things and legends of ghosts. And it's just like, I don't care about any of this. I mean, I've talked before, like, I like Star Wars. Obviously, I love Star Wars, but I prefer a very specific type of Star Wars story. And it's mostly about the Skywalkers and the Force and the battle for the Republic, and the rest of it on the fringes, unless it's really well done, like The Mandalorian, I just don't really care about.
Well, I mean, the thing is that part of the problem here is, I mean, it's fine, but the character as conceived and the stories that were weaved around her by Kieran Gillen to begin with were really good. I mean, like everything that I've described, like everything you said, I wouldn't want to read this either if you told me about it. But that Kieran Gillen stuff was excellent. Not only that, it was drawn by Salvador LaRocca, whose art I don't like, and it was still really good. She's a very ambiguous character. There's a lot of Constantine about her, I guess, to bring up something I talk about all the time, in a very charming way, and the threat, the stakes for her in those initial stories were very high and really well done. Her two sidekicks were an R2-D2 C-3PO, but evil psychopath killer bots. And they were funny, but also dangerous. And like her Wookiee, the Black Kyrgyzstan, you know, like he was weird and funny in that. And now it's just all normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it felt like the new characters came in. It was all a bit of a fashion show. Like they weren't interesting designs. It's read like it looks like a boring Wildstorm book.
Yeah. It's just I literally this book's only 20 pages and it took me 4 tries to finish it. It was just,
I was reading it. I was like,
when is this going to be over?
He's hating this, but but you're not wrong. Like I don't know if you thought I was going to be like, oh yeah, no, this was it. Like, and I dropped off. I was like, okay, I really like those Dr. Aphra stories. I've had enough. It's not like I'm going to be like, oh, I'm following this character until in every story she shows up in, because I think it's very hard to make it work. And Kieran Gillen has a singular talent in some of these kinds of things, and I don't like everything he does, but when he does something well, he does it really well. And I don't think you can keep up with that. Cy Spurrier is a guy who also has a very specific voice, and I think he fit in with it well. But even that, I was like, all right, it's fine. Like I have my part.
Which is interesting because he writes a really terrific Constantine.
It's true. It's true. That's the thing I've liked of his absolutely best. I don't know why. It's just that when he gets to
sometimes things work.
For Spurrier, I think that he has a massive imagination, and he's a person who throws a bunch of stuff at the wall, and it's really impressive and big, but I find it tiring. Constantine, there's a very rigid format. There's an area that you have to stick in, and because of that, he's focused, and he's not trying to impress you with his cool space ideas. But this is a problem for somebody. That's a problem for Warren Ellis, Anyway.
Well, I'm looking at the back page, which is the ads for the other Star Wars books, and you didn't like. Did you read Bounty Hunters? Did you not like it?
I read the first issue, maybe the second. That's Ethan Sachs, but
yeah, you didn't like it. You panned it.
I think I did, but also just that is what it is, and I'm not that market. Same way that you're not. I don't even know that it was bad. I just kind of didn't care. I don't remember. I don't think I'm reading Darth Vader. Oh, right, because it's Padme, but it's not Padme. It's Keira Knightley, Sabe, and I was like, yeah, not super interested. Star Wars #5. Somebody's writing it. Is it Greg Pak now?
Well, I hope somebody's writing it.
No, I mean like somebody I'm familiar with. I think I'm still reading the main Star Wars issue. Or you know what? I hate that they renumbered that one. I really liked that. Like there was a Star Wars comic that had been, in the, I don't know, in the high double digits, maybe it was the 40s or 50s or something like.
Yeah, it was.
Let that go, man. That's so cool. I don't know why I know why it's a problem for sales or whatever, but like, geez, I miss that. Like now, when you look at Spider-Man 43, I thought, wow, 43 issues of Spider-Man, that's rad.
Well, it's actually 844.
I know that, but like
it's
I'm sorry, I don't want to get into a numbering thing, but it really bothered. I remember thinking how cool it was when I was a kid, like that Thor was in 300, and I would think, yeah, so you divide that by 12. Holy cow! Like I loved that, and it's all gone.
It's all gone. Can't get it back, like our faded youth.
I know.
Let's rate and review. We already reviewed it. Let's rate Star Wars Dr. Aphra #1 out of 5 stars. Ratings
2.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 1.5.
That makes sense.
That was pretty bad.
I just think it was astonishingly average. Like it wasn't like bumbling. It was just like this exists.
I think it was but for me it's more annoying because it's Star Wars. Like I don't want to read astonishingly average gobbledygook Star Wars stories. For years. The batting average for Star Wars was exceptionally high. Yeah. And now we've diluted it down.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's a bummer for me.
There were a lot of Dark Horse comics for a lot of years that could be categorized.
I'm talking about even before all that stuff. Yeah.
I said those novels probably spoiled me for extended universe stuff. And even that
those early ones were terrific.
Yeah, and even that I stopped. Like as soon as I wasn't sure, I was like, nope, I'm out. Like I don't want to corrupt it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I'm not on this stuff. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So there you go. Patreon.com/iFanboy. Any patron can vote to add a book to the rundown, but if you give the $5 or higher level, you get your own superpower live on the show, which I forgot to prepare for.
Well,
so,
I've written
it's been a week.
I've written some thoughts there. That's
I know,
2 a.m. I was like, I don't know if I'll think of anything now.
I
But
was surprised to see your notes in the script. It's like, oh, Josh's notes for the Patreon. Anyway, let's thank Galeus. Galeus?
yeah.
Galeus.
Do you want me to go first?
No, I got one.
Okay.
It's not going to be good, but I got one.
With all these patrons, I felt intimidated because the patron count's gone up, and I was like, oh man, I was kind of coasting at the end.
What was it? 650 patrons. It's just incredible. Thank you. And that's just current ones, not counting all the ones that have come and gone. May have had this power before, but that's okay. Galeus can instantly dry clothing. So
Does he just live in a hot, dry climate?
No, he just touches clothes and it's dry. Like,
does he only own technical fabrics?
He doesn't have to worry about going out in the rain.
Right.
When he gets where he's going, he just dries his clothes.
Nice.
Although he might still get pneumonia.
Does it dry his skin? Because that can lead to chafing.
Right. It's still pneumonia, chafing, other problems you could get. But, he doesn't have to worry about having a clothing dryer. Mm-hmm. He can just wash his clothes.
Nice.
That's good for the environment because the dryers take up a lot of energy and things. So, he can just walk down the line and touch all the clothes and they'll be dried.
Nice. He's good for the environment. Yeah, that's perfect.
He dries fabric with the touch.
Cool. Jess Lysons can shrink any object up to 1/4 of an inch. So, say, for example, have you ever tried like a project and you need to get something in somewhere and it just won't go? It's supposed to fit in here up to 1/4 of an inch. Get that thing in there. You can bring it back up afterwards. Say, I don't know, just for example, you were trying to find a window air conditioner of 12,000 BTU and up, and the minimum requirement for window is 5.5 inches, and yours is 5 3/8 inches. Just as a random example. And you have to wonder, should I buy this, or am I going to have to send it back because of 1/8 of an inch?
Right.
Not a problem for Jess Lysons.
Up to 1/4 of an inch.
Up to 1/4 of an inch per side. So like your dimension is.
Oh.
So say it's like the object is 8 by 10. He can bring it down to 7 3/4 by 9 3/4, and also into the third dimension too. This does not apply to the fourth dimension in space time.
I see.
Okay.
All right, so there you go. Galeus and Jess Lyons. Thanks for being patrons. Patreon.com/iFanboy.
You ever try to frame something and there's a little bit at the end that doesn't fit for some reason?
Mm-hmm. Shrink it down.
Yeah. That brings us to patreon.com/iFanboy. This is the way that you can help support the show. And we had just mentioned to it, but know that we are dumbfounded. We are just flattered and humbled and so thankful and grateful for the help that people. And I know this sounds like a made up thing, but I really am. And it makes us think, oh God, we really have to do a good job with that because it's important to people. And they're showing us that by becoming patrons and supporting the show in all the different ways that you do. And thank you so much. And, because of it, we're doing our Media Explode show. We got a new one of those coming out soon. We are, I've been doing the Talk Explodes and we've been doing the Book Explodes. I mean, putting the video show up. All of that stuff is happening because people came along and supported the show. And especially now, like this is our second job. This is my other job, and it's significant. And it makes me, it's much easier to devote the time to it because of this. So anyway, that's that. Our next stretch goal is for quarterly barbecue video shows. However that's supposed to work, but I guess that will be a problem to solve if folks come through for that. So there we go. You can also, lots of other ways. You can go over to the t-shirt store, ifanboy.threadless.com, where you can buy up to 8. There's 8 designs that you can put on t-shirts. 3/4 length baseball shirts, sweatshirts. Now there are masks.
That's right.
We got some masks going that are available for purchase right now. The newest design is the Stay Home and Read Comics shirt. Or mask, all half the proceeds from those shirts is going to go to the Comic Book United Fund. And additionally, if you buy a mask from Threadless, their portion of their proceeds are also going to go to a fund that I do not remember right now, but you will see it if you're on ifanboy.threadless.com. So a lot of that goes to a good cause. And also, those masks look pretty cool.
They're cool, and the fact of the matter is that wearing masks is not going away anytime soon. And so the designs, we had not all of our designs. Stay Home and Read Comics, Nothing Makes Sense, Nothing Matters, Herm, the iFanboy logo, and the Electro. One is Electro, and the Herm in particular looks pretty awesome because the
is rad.
lines across the mouth.
Yeah. The Electro one, cool. Actually, you know what? All of those have something great about them. I'm going to be Nothing makes it like, if people could come near you, they would be a conversation starter. But as they can't, they probably will just look like a blurry thing. But you'll know, and that's what's fine. If you don't want to deal with any of that, but you're like, how can I help? You can go to ifanboy.com/support, and you'll find a direct donation link via PayPal. You will also be able to go to ifanboy.com/Amazon, where you'll find a general link to Amazon. So if you're buying the things that you need and you go through that helps us out. There's also links to buy the books in our Booksplode, and there's always a link to the music that we use on the show if you want to get on that too. So
I would before we move on, I just want to mention Elijah is one of our listeners, and he sent photos in. He got shirts for him and his daughter, his little daughter is little, and I guess they do baby size shirts, which is cool because he sent us pictures of his daughter Emerson wearing the Herm shirt. It's really awesome.
That's fantastic.
It's really cool. I'm not going to publicize it because I don't like putting up people's children's photos online without their permission. But he's wearing the Stay at Home Read Comic shirt, and she's wearing the little Herm shirt. And there's a picture of her playing with her toys wearing the Herm shirt, and it's pretty great.
That is fantastic. So, it's what's also good about it is in no way related to any corporately owned projects.
If you want to introduce your little children to nihilism, the little Herm shirt is pretty great. Let's do
T's for Tire Trek burst on dog's stomach.
G.I. Joe Corner. Unfortunately, Ron had a family emergency and had to drop out right before the show started. But we're going to soldier on without him as we talk about Battle.
By the way, he'll be just fine. You don't have to.
Yeah, not like a medical emergency. He just had something he had to deal with. Really, he's got twins, so
twin babies.
Babies. So
it's all an emergency. It's all a fire at that point.
Battle on the Roof of the World, which is the Revenge of Cobra, Part 4, the penultimate chapter. Originally, is this information correct? Originally aired September 13th, 1984?
Yes. Well, I added one to the previous one. I assumed that if Part 3 aired on the 12th, then 4 was the 13th. I did make the guess on that, but I think it holds.
Directed by Dan Thompson, written and produced by Ron Friedman for Marvel Productions. And this is, as I said, the penultimate chapter of the Revenge of Cobra story. As things get spicy in this one, there's a lot of fighting.
It was wall-to-wall action again.
So the cliffhanger, as we talked about last time, was the earthquake, which caused the ground below Shipwreck and Gung Ho, and I thought also Lady J to crumble, but she didn't fall. Only Shipwreck and Gung Ho fell into the crevasse. But luckily, Lady J carries a spear with a net. So she's like Green Arrow. Throws the spear, shoots a net across the crevasse.
A very narrow net. It was a large margin for error. I noticed.
Also,
and she said, "There's only one way to do this," and I was like, "I don't think that's the best way."
It was very narrow, but the tensile strength of that net, the amount of weight it could handle, was truly incredible. Considering it wasn't like the spear went that deep into the stone.
Well, you would hope so. Well.
Two giant dudes, one of whom is Gung Ho, who's got to weigh like 280 pounds of muscle. They land no problem on this net. And not only that, but then Shipwreck throws his little grappling hook into this, not very deeply into the stone, pulls on it to sort of propel them. And I thought, wow, the strength of this net is incredible.
Well, let's talk a little about Shipwreck's grappling. First of all, Shipwreck, I don't know if you know this, but you had a grappling gun with you. That shot a hook. One that I don't know if you know how grappling guns work, but it's sort of like a fish hook. And the idea would be that the hook part would grab onto something, not Shipwreck's. Shipwreck's burrowed directly into the rock, which hooked on nothing, but was enough to shoot them back up. And then, and I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but there's a bit where they're standing there at the end where Gung Ho in his vest comes and puts on his hand on Shipwreck, and I thought that is super gay. And
it's all very homoerotic.
I thought, did they know that? And then I thought, they didn't know that, but people definitely knew that. What's
also interesting, and I didn't even notice till now, is looking at the shot of as the earthquake takes out the land. The other Joes are in the middle of like island because the area all around them breaks. So how did they get off of that?
Listen,
They should all be stranded.
That's
None
true.
of them have jetpacks.
So moving along, we've got a hovercraft versus, I don't remember what those Cobra vehicles are called, but I remember I loved them. They're shooting at each other on either end of the horseshoe that was the island. And the way out of this is they each release a smoke screen. And
My notes say smoke fight.
And the Cobras are baffled by this. They have all the technology in the world, all sorts of things. They're like, they're gone. And so like, we'll go too. But they continue firing at each other. And neither have changed position. And no. I'm not a soldier, but I know a couple of things.
Guns are already trained on them. They're still there.
And then the third element here is that Zartan and the Dreadnoks in their high-tech submarine that is clearly, if they can afford the submarine, they may not need to do all this. There's a resource allocation issue there. They decide they want to be the third element in this whole thing, which I remember as a kid I loved. I thought, oh,
sure,
wow, we don't know what to think of them. Yeah, the chaos element.
Well, what's interesting is we see Zartan looking through the periscope, and he's surrounded by his 3 Dreadnoks. There must be other Dreadnoks we don't see because someone's piloting the submarine.
And also the 3 existing Dreadnoks, I don't trust their maritime ability. No. I really don't. Like, I do not believe they could work that ship. I believe Zartan could. Yeah. But I also want to know why Zartan's voice is always doubled. How does he do that? He's always got a slight
I want to know what the
slap back.
Smell like.
I don't.
Because they probably smell horrible.
Yeah. Everything just smelled like cigarettes then, as far as I could tell. I think it was just all cigarettes.
Yeah, that's true.
And that leads us to, I think the most interesting part of this issue. Mm-hmm. Sorry, that's a habit. Episode.
We call comics episodes and TV shows issues.
Storm Shadow and Spirit resume their battle. They have been caught in an underground river.
Green.
But and again, I had said it excited me that Zartan represented a third element. This blew my mind when I was a kid. The respect for your enemy bit that happens throughout this whole episode between Storm Shadow and Spirit.
First, they have to work together to not drown.
Yes.
Because they're floating with the piece of the weather dominator, and so they do that, and then they get up on the land.
Without words, though, they carry it together. They put it down. Yeah. It's great.
And then they get on the land, and it's like, well, we could fight, but
let's do for a little bit. They sort of
for a second.
They bow to each other.
Like, this is dumb, and let's think about it. So they both sit down and meditate on their situation.
They're also running out of air.
Incredible.
That's why the fight couldn't go on.
Yeah. It's just interesting that in 1984 we have these 2 heroes stop to meditate on their situation.
Well, let's also remember that given the time, this was the ninja craze, and so
for sure.
Part of the thing was Americans trying to come to terms with this sort of more Eastern philosophy, and while Spirit is a tornado of racial stereotypes, there is beneath it an attempt at respect for a culture. And I think that's what we're getting here is that, like, hey, these 2 people seem to be more thoughtful than the other people, than gung-ho. How would this work? And it's pretty damn progressive for what this show was, I think.
Oh, for sure. Mm-hmm. I think G.I. Joe in general is more progressive than people realize.
I think so.
Because underneath the very easy racial and ethnic and national stereotypes, they're all being portrayed. There's almost as many non-white characters as white characters in 1984, and it's kind of obvious what they're doing. They did try to give everybody a thing. So Roadblock talks jive, also a gourmet chef. So it's definitely an attempt, and I think that it's hard to think that this kind of stuff didn't affect people like you and me. Yeah,
and how they did.
So here's the next thing we see is the aforementioned Roadblock with what's her name?
With Optimus Prime. That is Optimus
What is
fucking
her
Prime.
name?
Oh wait, it's funny.
Honda
It's
Lou West.
Honda
Honda Lou
Lou.
West.
I'd forgotten it. She said it again. I was like, Honda Lou. Honda. All right, go for it.
She must have that hat pinned to her hair, by the way. It never comes off. They're in there. They're in the back of the Cobra truck in the caravan. They've stolen Hondalu's trucks and taken to the base in the desert. Where is the base?
I mean,
Where is Cobra headquarters?
it's
in
like-
the middle of what looks like the Sahara Desert, but clearly must be somewhere in the United States.
I think the Joes are somewhere like in Arizona, and I think this is like down the road. I think they built their bases like,
They
nearby.
didn't realize it was.
Or, it
We're
was,
only a mile from Joe's.
damn it. And, which leads into a scene, by the way, and I tried to look this up, but I could not find an answer. Destro, in this scene between him and Cobra Commander, says, "My dear Cobra Commander," for what might be the first time. Because I didn't notice it in any of the other episodes. My dear Cobra Commander. He does it.
At first, he's talking to himself because no one else is in the room.
Yeah.
So he's a little loony too. So then we got back to Spirit and Storm Shadow, which is the highlight of this whole episode. And
Yes.
as they realize they have to work together to get out of this cave, it's running out of air. Although there's a ton of room in the cave for air. It's not like they're in a tiny cave. So they have to float out with the piece. There's some dodgy, I don't say
Animation.
physics, but in terms of like, they say there's air trapped underneath the piece of the device, but I don't know how that would be possible because it's floating at the top. But
And it doesn't
Sound
seem
like
to
it's-
have it doesn't seem to have a cutout in it.
no, it's not curved to trap air. It's flat at the bottom, so I don't know. So anyway, so they work together to just free themselves, and then in the course of that, Spirit saves Storm Shadow's life, and so Storm Shadow now owes him a life debt. And so he gives him the piece to run off with. And Spirit turns out to be the best rock climber in the world.
Oh,
Not only can he
strong.
climb fast, but he can climb while holding this giant piece that required him and Storm Shadow previously to carry.
He's become stronger while being oxygen deprived.
So that leads to Zartan and the Dreadnought showing up to try to steal the device.
Hold on. So he's chased then by a bunch of blue shirts and Firefly. Firefly may be my favorite G.I. Joe design at the time. Because everybody liked Storm Shadow, but I was like, yeah, but look at this guy. Because I always thought that the gray urban camo or whatever that is looked rad. And so he was like a ninja, but that had that. And also he was a badass, I think.
And also his solution for everything was to throw a grenade at it.
Sure.
All he does in the show is just throw grenades at things.
It's fine.
And this is where I think we have the first example of obvious death on the show, which is not addressed, in which the blue shirts get blown off the rock by the Dreadnoughts and Zartan, and it's not like they parachute away. They fall down in the avalanche
And the
into
ocean,
the sea.
the water was heated up because of the volcano. So it was dangerous, which is why I assume they couldn't just drive the hovercraft away.
Right. So he kills those Cobra troops, and then there's a lot of questionable fashion on this show. But at one point, and I'm trying to find where it is in the show, but the Baroness shows up and she's wearing some sort of weird headdress, which I've never seen before.
It's her flight helmet.
It's just weird looking.
She got into the plane and she didn't have it, and then the Cobra helmet's a problem. Like the Major Blood helmet, that creeps me out. That's like it reminds me of the in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the French soldiers' helmets. They make them look like penis helmets. That's what Major Blood's helmet looks like, and that's what Baroness's like decorated helmet looked like.
Not good. It doesn't inspire fear.
Well,
Ridicule. So Roadblock and Honolulu get into the Cobra base. They almost kidnap Cobra Commander, which I thought, oh God, we're doing this again, but it didn't end up happening.
wait. Why did any of that happen? He shows up.
I don't know. It didn't.
They beat him up, and then I was like, all right, they're going to take him back. That makes sense. And then they just didn't. I was like, why did you even show yourselves if you were just leaving? It was just
Didn't make it.
no.
I mean, it allowed us to have the great scene in which Roadblock hoists Cobra Commander over his head and then tosses him at a group of troops, which was hilarious. But
That is good. That's enough reason.
But then the Cobra troops get up and they're all armed with guns. And instead of shooting Roadblock, one of them uses the gun as a club to club Roadblock.
They're not.
These are not well trained
They're
soldiers.
not good marksmen. They know it. They're playing to their strengths. In close quarters, whack that guy because you'll probably miss.
So then, the emotional highlight is the Spirit Storm Shadow fight. But then the real highlight from my memory was the game of hockey.
Oh, they got to the ice and I went, oh, it's hockey time. I also specifically remember being excited. I don't remember the name of the snowmobile, but I had one, and I had Snow Job. And to this day, I'm like, they must have known that it rhymes with blowjob. But there was a real thing called a Snow Job. But I can't. How does that fly? How did somebody in marketing at Hasbro go, whoa, or Kenner, whatever it was then? Kenner was Star Wars. Hasbro was these guys.
Well, Snow Job is it's like a con. It doesn't make any sense there's also a sexual thing.
But no, it rhymes with blowjob, and the word blowjob existed in 1983 and was well known.
Oh, I'm not saying it didn't. I'm just saying it was also the word for like you're snowing someone. It's a
I know,
con,
but like there's a word for a rooster is a cock, and you wouldn't call the guy big cock. No, he's like a chicken though. Yeah, but he's big cock.
Right.
No, again though.
How much cocaine the marketing department had done that day.
That's true.
He's just excited because now there's a snowy element. He's just waiting. He's been in the background while they've been in the tropics.
The point is, I was excited about those because I had those toys, and whenever one of my toys showed up that I can do this scene now. I was thrilled about it.
So I don't know about the biology or the environmental, truthfulness of the sluice tracks they use to get into where the thing is from the hot springs, but
I know glacier toboggans are not a thing.
He gives them glacier toboggans, which are not powered, so hopefully it's all downhill. And Gung Ho and Shipwreck just cannot pilot theirs at all. They just keep spinning, and they use the same exact footage twice.
Yep.
Which where the first two are just shooting down this track, and then Gung Ho and Shipwreck are just spinning around. Going off the walls, they can't handle it. But then that leads to they're all inside this sort of natural hockey rink where there's ice walls all around and a big ice sheet, and the disc-shaped piece of the weather dominator is there as the Joes arrive on one side and Cobra arrives on the other side. They all somehow have skates to attach to their boots, and they start playing hockey with
the skates. Is the real big thing here where everyone was skating. The
really good at it.
Yeah, Destro was skating. Gung Ho, you wouldn't think he'd be a great skater, but there he goes. He can do it. All the blue shirts and crimson guards, they're skating. Like you'd think, Snow Job, he could skate. Obviously, that's not a thing. Sure. And then they start, and I thought, wait a minute, how do they? Oh, they use their guns. They use their, and it's Spirit and Storm Shadow both skate. You know what? I don't think Storm Shadow skates.
But it seems risky to not. What if your first shot, instead of moving the piece like a hockey puck, blew it up? Like, you don't know. You're shooting a laser gun at it.
They cover all of these things. Like the tech guys, just before we go, if we shoot it and it's on ice, well, no, you're fine with that. Don't worry about it. It's not the big blocky one, right? No, it's not that one. It's the sort of puck-shaped one. Oh, no, that one, shoot. It glows. It's fine.
I feel like it kept changing size, too.
You didn't feel wrong. You were correct about that. But that was
like it got really big at one point.
Size variability, not unlike our earlier Patron Power. Size variability was a big thing with this show, and especially with Transformers, which was sort of happening at the same time. The same thing, like that did not matter. Size changed depending on what the scene. Sort of, I'm guessing like the first few episodes or so, they were like, "Wait, these sizes are all over the place." And they'd go back to the Korean animators they'd hire, and they'd be like, "What?" And they'd just start smoking again and draw it all over the place. And eventually they just gave up. They went, "You know what?"
And Ron Friedman had a cigar. He's like, fuck it."
Yeah, he
cares.
He was like, "You know how much money they're paying me for this?" And nobody seems to care. So who gives a shit?
So they have a big hockey fight, and then it ends up that the Dreadnoks, as predicted, steal the third piece. So now Cobra has a piece, the Joes have a piece, and the Dreadnoks have a piece, and the Dreadnoks are going to sell their piece for the highest bidder, which you think would sour them and their relationship with Cobra Commander since they're on retainer. Think as a group on retainer, they would have to give their piece to Cobra Commander because that's already paying you for nothing.
What's more impressive, though, is that clearly Cobra funded their part of it, but later they hired Zartan again. He's not ousted from the program after this, which I think says something. I think part of it has to do with the fact that when they steal it, they take their motorcycles and they drive straight up an ice wall. Which
let's also mention where those fucking bikes come from, because they had to climb this. But they had to climb up the snow wall to get to where they had to get. Remember, the Dreadnoks fell off the wall and Zartan saved them.
Okay.
So where'd the bikes come from?
I think that we can clearly say that they were not good submariners, but they are excellent bikers. So I'm going to give them that.
No, but where'd they appear? Did they conjure the bikes? Because they didn't have bikes strapped to their back when they were climbing their ice wall.
They're good bikers. So what happened was the submarine had them in there sort of on a pallet, and has an artillery sort of launch.
Launched them over the wall.
Yeah, launched them over the wall. They parachuted back down where they unpacked them, and they had their bikes and their ordnance in there.
I mean, it doesn't make sense, but that makes sense.
It makes sense.
Makes more sense than what happened here.
And then we get one more chance to revisit the relationship here between Storm Shadow and Spirit, where the life debt is fulfilled.
Repaid.
Yep.
He saves Spirit from getting crushed with ice.
When we meet again, it will be as enemies, and they both have a quiet moment of acceptance.
I remember as a kid going, they're gonna fight again.
I loved it.
Now the last thing I want to mention is slightly before in the middle of the hockey fight is that Roadblock and Han Blue are captured and sent to the arena of sport, because it feels like that's all Cobra Commander really cares about. And there they meet Duke and Snake Eyes, who have been captured in the previous episode, and Duke and Roadblock engage in a very cool guy handshake.
Yes.
And I was like, whoa, maybe Duke isn't quite as square as we thought he was.
No, I mean
he's got a cool guy handshake.
I think Conrad Hauser learned a little jive somewhere along the way, which I thought again, there's your stereotype. Like, no, he's Roadblock, he's cool, but he is gonna do that really long extended handshake thing that every white guy thought black guys did back then. And,
I mean, it did end in a kind of dorky thumbs up to each other, but
Duke added that, and Roadblock let him have it. What if at the end we do this? Sure, that's a good idea, because don't forget, Duke's the boss.
Yeah, I mean, is he?
I mean, in the context, he outranks.
Duke was the first sergeant, and Roadblock was. I'm looking for him here.
Oh wow!
I had it. Shit. Well, I had that whole spreadsheet I created long ago.
Feel like
Roadblock was a corporal. Yeah, no, Duke outranked him. Roadblock's just a corporal.
Yeah. So there is that.
He had to give that to him.
I do. We are running long, and we're gonna have to get out. But I think we do really need to mention the Kylo Ren scene. Where Cobra Commander throws his chair through the console, and then the Cobra Troopers come in, and he blames it on shoddy workmanship and orders like the head of IT fired, and the troops do sort of like there's these little bits of like the people who wrote this weren't idiots, like
no, they knew what they were doing.
Exactly right. They knew what was dumb, and they were like, let's put this in. It was a great little scene. Like it was fun.
Yeah, they were like, "Are you sure?" It's like, "What are you talking about? Punish him." Okay. And they're just going to tell him they punished him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we definitely punished him.
Yeah, no, he died in the arena of sport last week. Did you not remember?
I do want to one more thing before we go. My last note, which is from the beginning of the episode, in which, again, Doc shows his technical prowess to, first of all, he creates the smoke screen, and then he also is able to scan the water to find out there's magma, and then he also shoots some rockets. I thought, wow, maybe Doc's secondary skill is
everything,
like technology weapons, because he's the doctor. So I looked him up again. Doc's primary specialty was medical doctor, obviously, and a secondary specialty you'd think would be heavy weapons or gunnery. It's chaplain's assistant. He was the pacifist character.
Yeah, a medic famously his secondary thing wouldn't be weaponry, wouldn't be infantry or something like that, because he's
no, in the war, the medics also had to fight when the fighting happened, but like. This was the character who very famously in the comics and the toys was the pacifist, not displayed here. Also, he was a captain. He outranked even Duke.
He was Giovanni Ribisi right. From Private Ryan. He was that character.
Right.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So
there you go.
We're gonna wrap this up next week.
Amusement Park of Terror.
Again, every time one of those happens, I go, "Oh right, I remember
Have they
that."
said the title in every episode? Because this episode they definitely said it's a battle on the roof of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't remember if they'd said the title on every show like that.
They said it in the preview. They said it in the like next week on.
No. I mean, Destro says in this episode it'll be a battle on the roof of the world.
Well, we'll have to listen to it.
The title specifically.
My dear podcast Jamoke.
Yeah. So there you go. There's part 4. Next week, part 5 of G.I. Joe Corner. And up to you if you want to do one email or not.
I'm going to do one, and it's going to be short.
Okay.
I'm going to do one. Ken from the Great White North writes in and says, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but if you publish a comic book and you print in it that the book is copyrighted, is it actually copyrighted? Thanks. And I'm not a lawyer, nor is Connor. Connor, are you a lawyer?
No, but I did make a comic.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And what I did was I sent it to the lawyer.
Uh-huh.
And then they handled it. So I don't know.
So this is going to be my answer. If this is a concern, don't ask us. You need to ask, if this is the thing, you need to ask someone who knows. Don't write to podcasts about legal advice unless that is a legal advice podcast. And even then, confer with counsel.
I made a comic for my old job. We had in-house counsel.
Mm-hmm.
One day, the counsel sent me all the legal lines to put in the comic.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if that. I assume not, but I don't know. I don't know how copyright law works.
We don't. You just did it. You went, oh, okay. You have a tie.
But she said, "Here, put this in the inner flap. Put this on here."
She probably
Cool.
didn't have a tie. I bet she was desk sort of casual, business casual
sure.
kind of. Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, that's fine. So, we'll get back to him. You know what? I'll be honest. We could use some more questions. If you want to send some questions in, if you've been thinking,
we have a ton.
Yeah, we have backed up, but sort of recent questions. I was looking through new ones, and I thought we could use some more. Been a couple. So that's a contact at ifanboy.com. Also, don't forget, if you want to, you could send us a recording, a voicemail kind of thing. Yep. That's also possible. That would be, just keep it to 30 seconds if you can. Be direct with that. I don't want an essay. We don't need it.
It'll be like with 30 seconds.
Yes. Talksplode. Kelly Thompson Talksplode that I've been talking about for a long time is a reality. It is available for your ears right now. Her and I had a second conversation, and dare I say, I think it was better than the first conversation. So I don't think you lost out all that much. It was a different conversation, though. But you can read all about her career somewhere else. But we can actually chat about things. I really liked her. I really enjoyed talking to her. It's one of those things where I had to do it again, and I was like, I'm fine. I look forward to that. So it was another good one. I honestly don't think I've done one that I didn't like, and I always say that. But every time I'm like, oh, that was really good too, because it's fun to talk to smart, funny, creative people. That's all I know. There is a media splode that has been recorded. Our next episode, which is the patron reward. I don't know when.
It should be out.
It should be out.
Or it may not be, but it should be.
It should be. In it, the idea about these was that we would talk about non-comics media, but there isn't much other than TV. So we talk a lot about TV, unfortunately. Or fortunately. You know what? TV is the thing we're best at talking about after comics, so that it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And then this coming week, you'll have the next episode for the Animation Brain Trust, Justice League Dark, Apocalypse War. That is recorded. That is in the system. It's definitely going to be coming out this week. And you'll enjoy that. And then coming soon is the fabled Booksplode.
There it is. I'm looking at it.
God.
It's right in front of me.
I read a couple more issues. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Yep.
The next Booksplode is going to be a 35-page prestige issue comic.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be short.
Get over to ifanboy.com. You can find all of our podcasts. You can comment on this show. You can comment on any of the other things we just talked about. You can find... That was my 90th Talksplode. I didn't do all of them. Ron did a bunch of them in the beginning, but I've done most of them. So there's 90 Talksplodes there, and all of those conversations have something worthwhile in them. And I lost my train of thought. There we go. You will find out what the pick of the week is if you follow us on Twitter at iFanboy. You can follow us on Facebook or like us there. Will you like me, please? Facebook.com/iFanboy, and there's at iFanboy Comics on Instagram, which seems to be the least mentally damaging of social networks at this point. It's the only one that Connor has not eschewed entirely. and it's down to my final ones for me. You can follow us individually, CS Kilpatrick on Instagram, Jay Flanagan on Instagram. I haven't been on Twitter in a long time, but it's the same there. Ron XO, were he here, would be on Twitter and Instagram. And then we have a YouTube page because, we are a digital entity. YouTube.com/iFanboy, and you can keep up with the old video shows as they're being uploaded at the best pace that we can manage at the point.
I've been muting my microphone because there's a noise outside that I don't know what it is. But if you'd like the show, you can write a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to your podcast, whatever aggregator.
You got to change that line.
Star rating as we get out of here with there's something happening outside. Write a review, star rating, whatever you can do to help. That helps the algorithm, helps people find the show. We appreciate that. Even better than that is tell your friends, your comic store, your buddies. If anyone approaches you on the street and you tell them to get back 6 feet and then also listen to iFanboy, and we'd appreciate that. So
you like
go.
my mask? I got good news for you. Also, when you do go write that star rating, I want you to count how many we have and our average, and then I want you to go to Around Comics and check their average and how many they have, and then send them a screenshot of that information. If you could do that.
I don't endorse this ongoing feud. I am Connor, and we will be back next week.
I'm Josh. Thanks so much for listening and all the other stuff you guys do.